What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again, the original comic book storyline that I think a lot of fans ought to know about. It's a great story. It's regarded as one of the best Daredevil stories that has ever existed. So before we get into the story, remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member or joining us on Patreon in order to help support the channel. There's also links to the show apparel and also merchandise through Amazon.com. So let's talk about Daredevil Born Again, the original comic storyline. Born Again is a 1986 comic storyline that appeared through Marvel Comics, written by Frank Miller and drawn by David Mazzucchelli. The storyline appeared in Daredevil 227 through 231 and was later reprinted in a graphic novel format. The story details Daredevil's descent into insanity at the Kingpin's hands, as well as a subsequent struggle to build a new life for himself. The storyline was loosely adapted to the 2018 third season to the Netflix Daredevil television series. Karen Page, a former secretary of Nelson & Murdock, left New York City to pursue an acting career in Hollywood. However, her plans did not work out, and she became a star of pornographic movies and heroin addict, which I don't think will make the cut if it's going to be on Disney+. Unable to take control of her life, she spirals deeper and deeper into an existence of hunger, need, and desperation until she finally sells Matt Murdock's secret identity for a shot of heroin. The information eventually reaches the Kingpin, who proceeds to test it. Over the next 6 months, he uses his vast influence to hound Matt, causing his accounts to be frozen by the IRS, the bank to foreclose on his house, and in general, make Matt's life increasingly unbearable and a living hell. He even manipulates the police lieutenant, Nick Manolis, into testifying that he saw Matt pay a witness to perjure himself in a case. In the resulting trial, Matt manages to avoid jail term, but is barred from practicing law again. The Kingpin skillfully ruins Matt's life piece by piece, but he cannot see Kingpin's handiwork. Instead, he is convinced that he is simply unlucky, but the Kingpin overreaches himself. He can't keep himself from delivering one more strike, and he has Matt's house firebombed. This act of violence tells Matt that his problems were not random, isolated incidents, but the work of a single mastermind. Unfortunately, by now, Matt has become unhinged. He has trouble differentiating between his fantasies and the real world. He has no money or home and believes he has no friends. He even thinks his former girlfriend, Gloriana O'Brien, and his best friend and business partner, Foggy, are part of the complex, all-encompassing conspiracy against him. Meanwhile, Matt's confidant, Ben Urch, a reporter for the Daily Bugle, is investigating his friend's plight and finds evidence of the Kingpin's involvement. Unfortunately, the Kingpin learns of this and has Urch's source killed and breaks Urch's hand to intimidate him into silence. This cows Urch into keeping quiet, and Murdock is left on his own. Seeing no other course of action in his confused and paranoid state, he decides to attack Kingpin and force him to return his life. On the way, he brutally assaults 3 would-be robbers in a subway train and then beats up the police officer who attempts to arrest him and takes the officer's nightstick. In his weakened and confused state, he is allowed to enter the Kingpin's office and quickly beaten by the crime lord. The badly hurt and unconscious Matt is drenched in whiskey, strapped into a taxi cab with the billy club Matt Murdock stole from the cop. And finally, the taxi is pushed off the pier into the East River. When the car is eventually found, Matt's reputation will suffer the final blow. The Kingpin revels in his knowledge that he has completely disgraced, destroyed, and murdered the only good man he ever knew. But when the taxi is finally found, there is no corpse. Instead of drowning, Matt managed to smash the windshield and, in a supreme show of will, cut the safety belt with one of the fragments and swam to safety. Badly injured, Matt stumbles through New York's Hell's Kitchen by sheer willpower alone. As he shambles aimlessly across the city, he is stabbed by a thug in an alley and even hit by a car. Jeez, man, watch out. He eventually ends up being rescued by his mother, who, having not been in Matt's life for decades, has become a nun at the local church. She nurses him back to health, and at the same time, Karen Page, now hunted by the Kingpin's men, part of the Kingpin's orders to kill everyone who's possessed knowledge of Matt's secret identity, arrives in New York with an abusive drug dealer named Paolo Scorsese. No, not that Scorsese. Paolo Scorsese. Intent on finding Matt, she is unable to locate him, but meets up with Foggy, who takes her to his home in an effort to protect her from Paolo. Meanwhile, Urch manages to regain his courage and comes forward with the investigation, alerting his paper and the authorities of the situation. In the meantime, the Kingpin becomes increasingly obsessed with finding Matt and silencing Urch. He first arranges for the nurse who murdered Urch's source to kill the reporter himself, and he also arranges for a violent mental patient to be released from the asylum, dress up as Daredevil, and kill both Nelson and Page in an effort to provoke Mac into resurfacing. However, Matt intervenes in both plots. He defeats the nurse and the patient, takes the latter's costume, and proceeds to save Page from both Scorsese and another hitman sent by the Kingpin. The two are reunited, and Matt confronts Karen with the fact that he has moved beyond regretting losing his marital possessions. In a major misstep, the Kingpin uses his connections in the military to procure America's super soldier, Nuke, whom he sends to assault Hell's Kitchen. In a climactic battle, dozens of civilians die while Matt responds as Daredevil for the first time since the destruction of his home. Nuke uses heavy weaponry against Daredevil, who is plagued with not only the challenge of fighting an unhumanly formidable opponent, but the awareness through his enhanced senses of the casualties caused every time Nuke fires his weapons. In the end, Daredevil defeats Nuke in an uncharacteristic move to stop the slaughter, uses Nuke's weapons to destroy an assault helicopter that supported Nuke and further threaten civilians, thereby killing the pilot. The Avengers arrive at the scene and take Nuke into custody. Captain America, however, is not pleased with the situation. Although the authorities claim that Nuke is a terrorist, the captain is not convinced, especially after a discussion with Matt, who told him that the assailant's body was heavily enhanced. As America's original super soldier, he is appalled to find that the country's latest super soldier appears to be violent, muscle-bound, and insane man with little regard for the lives of civilians. Unsatisfied with the evasive answer given by the Nuke's superiors, he breaks into the base's computer files to discover more about Nuke. He turns out to be the only surviving test subject of a severely flawed attempt to recreate Project Rebirth, the same project that originally enhanced his own body. Enraged by the treatment he received in the media, Nuke breaks free from custody. He's stopped at Captain America, but nonetheless, the military attempts to kill him, as do the Kingpin's men. However, though mortally wounded, Nuke does not die immediately. Daredevil first attempts to get him to the hospital, but realizes that Nuke will not survive. He then decides to get him to the Bugle instead in an effort to prove that Nuke is a government operative and that his presence in New York is a product of Kingpin's widespread influence in the military. In the end, the Kingpin's public image as an honest and respectable businessman, the pillar of the community, is shattered. Although he manages to avoid imprisonment while he plans his revenge on Matt, for his part, Matt accepts and enjoys a new, different, but apparently fulfilling life in Hell's Kitchen with Karen Page and expresses no regret over the loss of his previous lifestyle as a successful lawyer. As for the Disney Plus show, Daredevil Born Again, it's gone through some rough waters, and its current iteration has been scrapped by Marvel Studios. The entire creative team has been fired, and only a few scenes from those shot are expected to make it into whatever comes next. Following the death of Foggy Nelson in the premiere, Matt Murdock would have given up being Daredevil and not suit up again until roughly halfway through the 9-episode season. You're telling me that I'm not going to get Daredevil in the suit until episode 4? Are you kidding me? More legal procedural than a superhero series, this take on Daredevil Born Again has been described as boring and, we kid you not, sleep-inducing. Earlier this month, we heard that the trial of White Tiger would be the show's first big arc, with Matt taking on the vigilante as a client after he stopped a mugging. In reality, the muggers were corrupt cops, and one accidentally died during the scuffle. White Tiger is deemed a cop killer. Now, if you ask me, this story seems pretty interesting, but I would have rather have gotten the darker, edgier, more brutal story of Daredevil Born Again, where his whole life is torn apart by the Kingpin. Foggy Nelson sleeps with Matt Murdock's ex-girlfriend, all these horrible things, and in the end, they come out on top, and you get a cameo of the Avengers and Captain America. Guys, let me know what you think of the original story of Daredevil Born Again, and would you rather see that story or the story they were working on at Disney Plus? Guys, remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member or joining us over on Patreon. And guys, if you haven't done so yet, check out Project Justice League over on the 4 Nerds Network. So far, we've raised over $6,000 for AFSP. And guys, this gives you a conclusion to Zack Snyder's Justice League storyline. And with that being said, you guys, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!